Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Renny.
I'm Tori.
And I'm Josh. And Tori, welcome back to our panel.
Thank you for having me again.
And it's nice to have you in this very cozy looking house.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
It's the first time an instructor has ever allowed us to hold the session.
Yes? Oh, well.
Exciting.
So,
Yes, Josh, we don't want to say how long ago he was my student now, or I don't want to say how long ago he was my student now. But he was in a good Shakespeare class.
I don't mind saying it. When this episode goes up, it'll be pushing 8 years.
Oh, my goodness.
But we're going to be going over another Shakespeare play. Shakespeare is where we cross paths.
Yes.
Shakespeare is what Tori's most passionate about.
One of my most passionate things, yes.
And we're going over Measure for Measure as per one of the plays that Tori had suggested before as far as his canon is concerned. And let's hope this one, we'll find out if I liked it better than her other choice. But Tori, you have a discussion starter?
Yes, so this is one of Shakespeare's problem plays, and it's also co-written, or it's said to be co-written by another author as well. What in this play kind of tips your hand towards that? When you're reading it, there is some semblance of a way that it's written where it almost kind of feels a little bit different than everything else that I've read so far of Shakespeare, but it's still kind of on the same main path. Did you catch that? Was that something that
It's
you guys
interesting that you mention it because they did make mention to the fact that Thomas Middleton
Yeah.
They
did,
have contributed to it.
made some
Yes.
contributions.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's because I read that before reading Measure for Measure, I kind of did a little digging, or if it's just that it really is that evident. I didn't know if you guys maybe picked up on it or knew that kind of stuff.
I think it is Shakespeare. It's almost the same time as Macbeth.
Mhm.
I don't think it has the power of Macbeth at
No,
all.
it's a more subdued version of it.
But they're both shorter plays. I'm not sure that's not because we don't really have a Shakespeare original. We have quartos and we have what people remembered, but at least it's definitely Shakespeare. It's in the first folio.
Mhm.
And I think, except it's kind of two plays. It's classified as a comedy because it has a happy ending, but there's obviously a tremendous amount of tragic
Yeah,
material.
it gets a little dark
in it.
in here.
Yes,
Absolutely.
definitely.
And it asks a lot of questions about morality for a
Yes.
comedy play, especially
Yes.
of Shakespeare's tier.
And a lot of it can be applied to today's
Yes,
events
it's
yes,
very
we could do it today.
Angela is very reflective of those scumbag politicians
Yes,
that
you could do
are
it today.
they consider they're authoritarians that abide by the law, but they can be bought by sex.
Yeah, I didn't.
Or anything else.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Money,
Yeah.
especially.
And even says as such, quotes to Isabella at the very beginning, saying, I have a reputation, and if you come in here and try to question it, my reputation is grander than, like, your purity,
Yes.
to put it in so many words. And that is so, you hear a lot of that, like, who's gonna believe you? And that's such an insidious thing to hear, but it kind of just shows you how, throughout time, that is something that's happened.
Yes,
I
I
think
think
Bella,
you
though,
could
was
really
pretty-
stage the play. You could stage it in modern dress in DC right now. It has everything in it.
You can put it on
It has-
Capitol Hill.
Yes,
and
it
would feel
has
exactly the
power
same.
and ambition and sex and corruption.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, and the other thing that I thought was interesting was the side-by-side stories of you have Isabella and Angelo and Claudio and all those folks, but then you also have like Pompey and Overdone and
I think Pompey explained the commitment of adultery in the most hysterical way, saying that he was groping for trouts in a
Yes.
peculiar river.
yeah, there's some
That
fun
is-
And
quotes
he
in
also
this one.
talks about how you could respect a woman because that's how she gets respectful.
Oh, yeah, he had some of the, and he was a pimp.
Yes.
He did really.
Yeah,
he was a pimp
he's an interesting
disguised
character.
as a bartender.
Well, that's the two levels. You have the governmental and authoritarian level, and then you have the underground and the underworld, which everybody else was involved with. The bawds, the pimps, the prostitutes, and so forth. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, especially when people are like, "Oh, I don't understand Shakespeare. I don't see how it fits in today." And this play is probably one of the best examples of like you said, you could put it on today contemporarily. You could, without changing a thing, you could put it on with just a modern dress and have the same exact effect.
And it's still pretty hysterical.
Oh yeah, it's got
There
these
is
great
a lot
moments.
And it's hard for me to say that
of
anything
funny things
written
in it, yes.
is even. I didn't even
Tremendous
think of
language.
Midsummer Night's Dream was that hysterical, but I thought this was.
That was more fanciful.
Yeah.
This actually has some moments of like
Yeah.
laugh out
This
loud
one's a bit more
script.
organized too,
Yes.
and but I can't help but when I think of Isabella, I think has anybody been following the political affairs and the primaries?
Oh, sure.
I would think I can't help but think of Marianne Williamson from
Oh,
Isabella.
my goodness.
The whole when she's talking about how she's going to reward Angelo not with physical wealth and gold and money, but with prayer.
Yes.
Very
Her
much.
purity.
With her purity, yeah.
Yes.
First it's with prayer, but when they work their way to her purity,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
she, I mean, granted, I think that she regrets she has great regret doing it, and I don't think she wants to get to that point, but if it means saving her brother.
Well, yeah, I have to say that's our situation.
Yeah.
A man wants this young woman who is planning to be a nun to give herself to him to save her brother, who committed fornication, not adultery, but with a woman he was contracted to marry, so that they would be probably considered common law today, even. I mean, more than just living with somebody, because there was a contract already.
Yeah, they were
just-
married on a technicality, right?
They just hadn't had the church ceremony, and I don't know if they did banns in the Shakespearean time or not.
I think that God would have approved
God,
Yes, God.
yes,
Isabella's
it was-
actions.
yes,
it meant
yeah.
saving her
Yes,
brother
so
Claudio.
but that was the conflict. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was having her question her morality.
Yeah.
And that gray area of where should you bend your morals to save another person, or is it worth, is that person worth saving for your morals?
And
Like that
also,
kind of
what
stuff.
is the nature of law? What is
Yeah.
the nature of measure? How do you balance that? And the thing that I see with the play as a problem, and Shakespeare does this in Henry V. He has Henry V go disguised among the soldiers to find out what they're thinking. And so here we have the Duke who feels that he hasn't been exactly ruling too strongly, so he'll pretend he's a friar and find out how things are going on, because he's not really strong enough exactly to lead, evidently.
But interesting thing that I wanted to ask of you is, do you think there was a great reason or impact not to give Juliet a single line?
I don't know, I thought that was a little odd, considering that Claudio would never have been in the situation that he was in if it weren't for his relationship with Juliet.
Yeah, interesting.
But
I didn't think
in for instance, in Romeo and Juliet, a moving character behind Romeo's motivation is Rosalind, and Rosalind doesn't have a line in the play either. Usually in the movie they show her at the Capulet party or something, but actually in the play she doesn't speak.
I don't even think she's like actually she's mentioned, but she's,
She's
never
mentioned.
a character.
No,
Yeah.
she's not
Juliet-
on stage.
Juliet
she's
is-
not on stage.
Casted in Measure for Measure.
Well-
Rosalind, I don't think is.
No.
No, she's not in the casting in here.
I think it's a different Juliet, right?
Oh, there. That's the
Yeah,
same
in Measure
Juliet.
for Measure,
No,
there's a
he
different
uses the
Juliet.
same names all
Yeah,
the
it's not,
time.
and he uses the same themes all
We
the
have
time
an
too.
Aeschylus in this play.
There's
it's
everybody
not the
disguising
Aeschylus
as
in Romeo
people are
and Juliet.
disguising as other people.
Yeah.
Women are
Oh,
dressed up
yes.
as men.
Yeah.
So it's not like Shakespeare creates cliches onto himself.
Yes. Well, Shakespeare, I think, likes the idea that in his time, and he doesn't really do this in this play, but where he is a young boy playing a young girl, and then playing a young man when she's disguised, which we have in like Twelfth Night.
Yeah. Alrighty. But I also found it interesting. I think there was a great sense of solidification I like the way that these characters were fleshed out. Even the ones that had a minor role, like Mariana, the prisoners in particular.
Yeah, there was no like slapdash. Okay, we're here. Like certain plays have that feeling of almost whiplash of like we're here, we're there, we're here, we're there, we're here. This kind of was very cohesive and stayed relatively like on track.
Barnardine, he was hysterical.
Yeah, he was.
Let him take let him finish his nap before they hang him. And they tell him that he's going to have plenty of time.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to say with this, Shakespeare is not normally in any way socially conscious, but I'm not sure that this maybe, he was at court, his plays were performed at court. Maybe this is some comment on the court in Elizabethan England at the time. Of course, it's becoming Jacobean because James is king when this play was presented. But it is the one that seems to me deals the closest to the bone with politics.
Yeah, there's a lot of like
Yeah.
deep hitting subjects. Like we said before, there's a lot of heavy stuff in this play. So.
Law and order and whether or not
Yes.
there should be exceptions to the rule.
Right, and what law you follow and how much you follow the law.
And whether or not the right person is stressing the law out in the right
And what the qualities of a
capacity.
leader are.
Yes.
I think the Duke comes off, he's supposed to be a tribute possibly to James I, and I don't think he's a tribute really at all.
But the way
Except that in the end, he makes everything right. But I mean, the fact that he makes the two people switch in their bedroom meetings, I mean, that is a very not nice thing to do.
No.
thing of him and with Lucio, who was who fell for both him and his but he let him off the hook on the contingency that he marry a prostitute.
Yeah, I know.
So.
Yes, but he was not not my idea of the philosopher king.
Again, questioning that.
But Lucio
morality.
helped Isabella out a lot too. So.
Well, he's an interesting character.
Yeah.
They're all interesting characters in their own way. And he, because he's both part of the upper crust and the lower crust.
Yeah, I would say that he's.
And he's a great dresser.
Oh.
That's the other thing in this play. There's a tremendous amount of mention of what people are wearing. Shakespeare is usually very vague about directions and costuming, but he mentions dress in this several times.
Yeah, you can definitely imagine how everybody is dressed and the way that he follows suit with the actions that take place and not just what they're saying.
Yeah.
But was there anything else anybody wanted to mention? Final thoughts?
We did it. I think this is a play that is a great example of why Shakespeare is so important, and why giving him a try is important.
Yes.
Because he has some lovely things to say and can be so timely and can be so relevant after, 400 odd some years?
I think that this can definitely get people into him.
They just did him in the Huddy Park Shakespeare Festival, which I was supposed to see, but my companion mixed up the times. It was only on 3 p.m. one Sunday and not 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
But interesting that they chose it.
This year was done several different places. They did that in the Toms River Shakespeare. I think New Jersey Shakespeare Theater did it as well.
They did in Seaside as well.
Well, that's the same.
Yeah.
That's the same group. But I mean, like
okay.
theater companies with them. So there was the Toms River Shakespeare Theater, and then the New Jersey Shakespeare Theater, which I think is like one of the top Shakespeare theaters in the nation. So I want to say they did Measure for Measure as well, and another national group did it as well.
I think with the political climate the way that it is, I think that
just about to say, there's something very
and I have to say it'd certainly be better than Titus Andronicus, which is a bloodbath.
Yep.
And could be political also.
Okay, then
can
how would we rate
stomach
it
that
on
one.
how would we rate it on a 0 to 5 scale with half stars permitted?
I'll give it even a 4.5 because I think that it falls. It's not a tragedy exactly like Lear or Macbeth or Hamlet, but it falls in that time period from 601 to 609 when he is writing the great dark tragedies, and much of it obviously covers tragic material.
Tori?
I think you know where I'm going to put it.
Probably a 5.
It's a 5.
Okay.
I like it because it's succinct and I think it does the job, and it does the job well.
There's something that I needed to tell you, Tori. Yeah, it's something pretty intimate if you wish to take my Measure for Measure was better than the Teletubbies.
Woo! We're making things right?
I'm gonna give it I'm giving it a 4.
Okay, I'll deal with it. I'll take it.
I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it made me laugh. I think that it was.
I'm sorry.
It can definitely be applied to today. I think that there were things that I felt were missing here or there, but I still think that it is. It's my favorite comedy of his that I've read thus far. But then again, I've read mostly tragedies.
It is what they call the problem play, so
Mhm.
that makes it interesting in itself, looking at the problems.
I would say that Hamlet, Macbeth, and Julius Caesar were better.
Oh, yes.
but-
Well,
yes.
they have
Yeah.
the drama and the
Lear.
intrigue.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Othello.
love
Yeah,
Lear.
they are.
Yeah,
Yes,
Lear's
they
great.
are. But I think this rates well, and it falls in that, as I say, it falls in the era of the big dark tragedies.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's so identifiable with, I think, today's climate.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you discredited the climate that we have today politically, like there's
Probably
still a
any
lot
time.
of it.
Probably any time.
Yeah.
Corruption at the top, corruption at the bottom.
Yeah, I feel like anybody could identify with that, unfortunately.
Alrighty then. If you're interested in reading Measure for Measure and Shakespeare's other plays, here is my source, the complete William Shakespeare, the complete plays.
You don't want to see my source, it's falling apart.
Very low-worn.
Alrighty then. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.
Bye.